Okay, let's go. Okay, so we're starting again. We spoke about Mitzrayim, the famous difference. We'll speak in short because you know the famous difference between Mitzrayim and Eretz Israel. Eretz Israel is based on a kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and a relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, we need rain. Therefore, we pray for rain, etc. I spoke about the situation nowadays that we don't need it so much because it's a modern country. But I spoke about the milchama, that it might be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu postpones the rain in order to help the soldiers, Ezrat Hashem. Okay, but speaking about Egypt, we know that the Nile is their god because all the agriculture is located around the skeleton of the Nile. All of the rest of Egypt is just a big desert and primitive. They have no big cities there. All the cities are next to the Nile. Okay, but we have two parts of being a part of the Nile. The first part is that the Nile supplies all the economy. Okay. The second part is that you make all the population be a slave of the king or of the Nile. That happens throughout Sefer Bereshit because Yosef gets a population with machalot, with karkaot, with possessions, with assets, and then assets. And then Yosef bought, because of the hunger, he bought their assets and made them a part of Paro's possession. That was a low tahalich, a low process in which he made a pyramid. The head of the pyramid is Paro, and all the commons are just his slaves, okay? But that's why, in my understanding, the reason why the Yeor is not mentioned so many times in Sefer Bereshit, because Sefer Bereshit doesn't talk about the head of the pyramid. He talks just about the pyramid. So Yosef helps Paro building by buying all the assets of the Mitzrayim. He slowly builds a pyramid in which Paro is the head of it. But who supplies Paro? Who is the head, the god of Paro? That we'll see just in Sefer Shmot. So whereas Sefer Bereshit talks about the pyramid, Sefer Shmot talks about just the linkage between the head of the pyramid, Paro, and the supplier, the Nile. When coming to this relation, if you go to the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, in Chelek Gimel, Perek Yud Rambam brings there 5 shitot, 5 opinions about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does he know what's going on in this world or not? He brings the first shita of Epicurus, the famous Greek pre-Socrates philosopher, Hippocrates. He understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't know at all what's going on here. He has no idea. He doesn't know. He doesn't manage the world. And therefore, everybody who is a hypocrite is called koifer or epicurus, epicor, because of Hippocrates. Okay, not Hippocrates. Sorry, I'm translating not good. Epicurus, okay, epicor. Okay, sorry. The second shita, as Rambam brings, the shitat Aristotle, and then he brings Ash'ariya, two Muslim philosophers, and etc. But Paro, doesn't he believe in God at all? Like Epicurus, does he believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't know what's going on? Or that he has another God? So, and he just doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he believes that some God knows what's going on. That's very interesting to see in these 2 parashot of Shmot and Vaerah. As I said, wow. We have a guest. So Sefer Bereshit, now I know that it's working. It's still working. So Sefer Bereshit discuss, as I said, the pyramid. But Sefer Shmot discuss the head of the pyramid making not everybody a slave, but talking about the relation between the head of the slaves and his Nile. And if I'm right, so throwing the babies into the Nile, it wasn't just a way of killing. And Larry suggested, based on Chazal, that it was a korban. Okay. But according to what I'm suggesting now, throwing the babies into the Nile was a shita to check out, like in Sparta. If you have a baby, somebody told me that in some places they take a 1-2-year-old baby, they throw them into a swimming pool, and they start swimming immediately because they don't have what to do. And then babies know how to survive, and that's a shita, okay, in some places to teach babies. I haven't tried it on mine, but some people say it works. Okay, so I think that Paro, based on his shita, really thought, you might call it a korban to the Nile, you might call it just an attempt to see who is stronger. The shita of Paro was to check out who is stronger. I believe, says Paro, that the Nile is above everything. But if you think that you're braver or stronger, I'll throw you into the Nile and we'll see what's going on. By this, you might understand the absurd fact that his daughter, Bitya, is the Moshiach of Moshe. She brings a baby to her father, and the Torah neglects the very fact of Paro asking her, where did you bring it from? Okay? And what did she answer? Okay? But if you say like this, so it wasn't a secret. She told him explicitly, that's a baby I've brought from the Nile. And that's why Moshe has power from his birth. You don't need Chazal to say, there's a famous story that they brought him gold and fire, and he touched the flames of the fire and instead of the gold. Paro knew that this one is the only one that I know that survived and succeeded in surviving in the Nile. So it must say that he's stronger than the Nile. And therefore, Moshe is destined to be a god or to be some leader. And he doesn't, in this Ashkafa, you don't see Bitya as violating her father's decree. No. She just brought a baby from the Nile and told a father explicitly that exactly, as I said before, I made you a comparison with Yosef. And the brothers, what do they say? ונראה מה יהיה חלומותיו? Okay, so Yocheved threw him to the Nile. ונראה, okay? ונראה מה יהיה חלומותיו, and he really succeeded it. So Moshe, therefore, Moshe wins the Nile. And in his Paro perspective, Moshe must be the God now. But Paro doesn't want to handle it because in his perspective, the Nile is above everything. And therefore, is the ma'avak between the fight between Moshe is not with Paro. Paro looks from the side about Moshe confrontation with the Nile. Who is stronger? Paro knows that I am the head of the pyramid, but who is above me? Whether it Moshe that is won over the Nile or just the Nile. And therefore, for Moshe now on, the ma'avak, the struggle would be to prove that I am stronger than the Nile. Yeah.
Ask, then what was the kavana of Batya when she said Kimina Mayim Mishisiu? I gave the name Moshe. Why did she reference it to that water? I mean, what was her kavana, and what did the Pharaoh think of that?
So according to what I'm saying, it's mamash explicitly the truth. She says, you see this? This is taken from the Nile, meaning not just taken, meaning he has won the Nile because he survived. It's like in Sparta, you threw him into the, I don't know, the head of, or the mouth of the snake. And even though he didn't bite him, okay? So we threw him into the Nile, and even though he succeeded, so yes, that's his name. He is the Muhammad, the candidate to be a Mashiach, to be something strong. So she doesn't hide anything, okay? That's why that's why he is called with his name. By the way, you know that his real name of Moshe, according to the Gemara, was Tuvia. The Gemara says that his real name was Tuvia. The whole house was filled with light. And I have heard something very nice in the name of Rabbi Yonatan Eibeshitz. When Moshe tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Parashat Ki Tisa, he says, Ve'im ayin mecheni na misifrecha asher katavta. If you don't forgive Am Yisrael chet ha'egel, so erase me. So usually we understand Baal HaTurim, famous one, that Moshe is not mentioned in Parashat Tetzaveh, okay? But the Rabbi Yonatan Eibeshitz says something very sharp. He says Moshe is not mentioned in all the Torah because his real name is not mentioned, it's never mentioned. He wasn't born Moshe, he was born Tuvia. Where did you hear it? Just in Chazal, not in any other place. So, okay, Moshe is just named according to this Shita, like the Mashiach, like the Spartan hero, okay? He is Mashui min hamayim, and he is taken from the water. The Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, the famous midrash of the 9th century, says that throwing all the Egyptians into Kriyat Yam Suf in Parashat Beshalach was just a midah keneged midah. They wanted to kill all the males of Am Yisrael, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed their males because they took just the males into the sea. It was midah keneged midah. But according to what we're saying, it might be that even Kriyat Yam Suf is not just a midah keneged midah, not just a lower prat from midah keneged midah, but in a higher interpretation. You thought, the Egyptians, that, okay, that you can, you are gods, or Paro, you thought that you are God and you are stronger than water. No, the water will overcome you and you'll be a part of them, and therefore you'll thrown into them. But now we have few minutes, so let's go. We have actually more, but because maybe it's a disconnecting gave us more time. Let's see. I don't see now the 10 minutes border, so maybe we have more. So Moshe Rabbeinu, as I said, is focusing in 2 makot in the water, in the Nile. The first makah is, good evening, is a dam, and the second makah is Tzfardea. Basically, both of them deals with the Nile. From then on, we have a lot of air, we have ground, arov, dever, we have barad from, okay, but hail, but we don't have anything depends just in pure water. The first makah is mamash pure water, pure Nile makah. Moshe hits the mateh. Okay, and the second makah is a product of the water, the frogs. What does it mean that in both of these makot we see the Nile? As I said, I didn't say that, 14 times out of 16 times in Sefer Shmot are just in Makat Dam. Okay, 14 times the Yaor out of 16 in all Sefer Shmot, because I said the 17th is just a mentioning in Parshat Beshalach, but 16 times we talk about the Yaor, 14 of them is with Makat Dam. Okay, so Makat Dam is very central. And what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to show Paro in Makat Dam? We know from the Torah that a blood symbolizes not just something that we have in the veins, but the nefesh. The Torah says explicitly, ki adam hu nefesh, you shouldn't eat blood, unlike the goyim, because the dam is a nefesh. Okay, if you kill a person, okay, so לא, איך זה נקרא? You can suffocate him, you can kill him, but the Torah says, always לקחת את נפשו, כן? להרוג, להורגו נפש, כן? לקחת את הנפש ממנו, כאילו לרצוח, להרוג, להוציא דם. That's, in most places, the main ביטוי of killing. We don't find לחנוק, okay? We don't find לסקול, we can do that. We find להוציא דם. So the דם meaning to kill a person, because the nefesh is dam, so when you take out the blood, you kill him. And that's clear. By saying that the Nile becomes blood. So basically we understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ruined the source of water, of drinking, of whatever. But I think that Moshe does more than that, because we spoke about two ma'alot, or two stages in order to be the God. The first one is enslaving all the Egyptians and making them dependent on me. That Yosef was a vice president of, or the vice king or whatever, the person who helped Paro to become the head of the pyramid. But now Sefer Shmot deals with the relation between Paro and the Nile. And as we saw, Paro thinks that the Nile is everything for him, all the suppliers of food, of dagim, of economics, everything. But now, what is the relation to his God? How does Paro, from his own perspective, even if he's a God worshipper, he is Oved Elelim, but he believes that the Nile is perfect and is God. How does he describe for himself the worshiping of God? Okay, and by thinking of what Paro thinks about his God, you think that he looks about it like the Greeks, like in mythology, like a God that is very static, that is very indifferent, that is very that doesn't have a feeling, that you should suit him by sacrificing him korbanot, and if he's angry at you, so you please him with presents, you give him some things, like what the Greeks and the ancient world thought. So Paro thinks that the big supplier of the Yaor, I'll go every day to make my sherutim there, to make tzrachim, okay, there, as Chazal said, and by this, I worship him. Why does it symbolize any worshiping? So if you remember, once we spoke about the Baal Peor, Avodat Elilim, and as Chazal describes the Baal Peor, the Chazal says that it was big WC, okay? That's what happened there. They went to the toilets and made what they made, and that was the worshiping. So if you think what was you know that in any Avodah Zarah, you have to understand that a lot of worshippers believed in it. So what did they find in this Avodah Zarah? And we thought then that it makes a lot of sense, because you have two ways to worship a God. What we believe, that you make what's called in Latin imitatio Dei, that you try to be similar to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mahu afani, and if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mevaker cholim, I try to be mevaker cholim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes some chesed, I try to imitate it, okay? But the other way says, no, don't try, because if let's say that you every day you mevaker 5 cholim, it's nothing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much bigger than you. Don't try to learn. Don't try to daven, because if you are mechaven all the way in the tefillah, okay, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't care. What should you do? according to Baal Peor, you should worship your God by stressing out the difference between you and him. I am very low, so you are very high. I make my shirutim, my WC, my toilets there. I symbolize that you are so high. I am very human by making that. I cannot make more than that. That was the higayon behind the Baal Peor. The same thing happens with Paro. By Chazal saying that he was God, and therefore he went to Shirutim next to the Nile. I think that he made like sort of the same thing, that he understood the Nile to be a God that is far away, far above me, and I cannot function with him. So therefore, I'll make my shirutim, I'll show how low I am, and therefore how tall or high he is. And by showing Moshe, showing Paro that the Nile becomes red, becomes blood, Moshe shows that the Nile has a nefesh, that your God is not static, is not static, is not stable, is not indifferent. He is not some God that sits on the Olympus and doesn't care who you are. He has, as Shakespeare says, if you stab him, so it hurts. And if you don't daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it hurts ke'ilu, kviyochol, and he is hurt by you, and then he is angry at you. And if you pray for him and give him a good prayer, so it makes him happy. And if you learn, it makes him happy, etc. And therefore, not only that Paro learns that his God might be pagia, what do you say? That you can hurt him, but Moshe teaches Paro that his God is not static, is something with blood, with feelings. Okay, and I see that the connectivity is not good.
It's almost over.
Now it's okay? You hear me? You hear me? Do you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hearing? Okay, sorry.
Losing you. You're back. You're back.
Again, you didn't hear.
Yeah.
Now you're hearing me? Okay.
Right, no.
Now we.
You're going on and off all the time now.
Oi. So from what on? Did you hear the?
Right.
So I'll repeat again. Okay, sorry. Just and I'll end with it. Moshe wants to show. Do you hear? Moshe wants to show Paro that the Nile is not just can be hurt, can be your God is not God because it can be blood. Okay, that's one issue, one thing that he earns. But Moshe wants to show him another thing, that the God is not God as you think, that is a different God, that God sits on the Olympus and you are here low and he's indifferent. He doesn't care how you suffer, how you to your poverty, etc. No, the God has nefesh, has blood, and therefore the first makah. That's why the Yeor is constantly and 14 times mentioned, because we have a lot of times the nefesh, the blood of the Yeor. That's the main thing of Makot Mitzrayim, to show Paro three things. First of all, the God is not somebody sitting above, is somebody listening. Secondly, you are a part of this world, and it doesn't sit on you. And thirdly, that will be seen in the future, all the pyramids, all the stages of people enslaved to you, that's you should free them. And therefore, Am Yisrael, when they're meshuchrarim, when they're free, then the whole system comes through. I'm sorry for the disconnectivity, and hope at the end of it you have some of it. I'll try to listen to the recording to see if the recording went well. Simply don't have an understanding, but we'll change the link, so maybe it will help.
Rav Khan, don't you think possibly the first turning the water into blood was an indication that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is stronger than the God of the Nile?
Yeah. So I said,
He dominates the Nile.
yeah, that's what I said, that I didn't know the word in English, that the God is Pagia. Your God is Pagia. You can hurt him. Okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I can defeat your Nile.
He's vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Thanks a lot. That's a word. Yeah. So that's the common explanation. I wanted to add something that the Nile has Keilu koach mishel atzmo, and therefore by teaching him, then you cannot speak about free all the people, because the pyramid is something from Sefer Bereshit, is a secondary issue. The first one is the head to discuss with the Nile, and just by showing that firstly that the Nile has a neshama, that it has a nefesh, and therefore that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is stronger than the Nile, so then you change his mind to look on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you change his way of looking of the God, because he doesn't expect HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be as indifferent as the Nile, and then he can understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares, so if he cares, let's free all the people. That's it for this time. Sorry again for the experiences. Toda. Good evening. So